In 1962, Japanese director Masaki Kobayashi created one of the best samurai films of all time, Harakiri. Kobayashi's mastery of composition and movement within the frame rivals that of the legendary Akira Kurosawa, who he actually worked with very closely later in his career. The overlap between each director's visual style is very apparent, as Kobayashi employs many of the same techniques for creating captivating, moving images as Kurosawa. What you are now seeing is my favorite scene from Harakiri. What I want you to pay attention to is the three types of movement you see within the frame. Movement of the characters, of the camera, and of their environment. What did you notice about that shot? How many different types of movement were there? Let's go back. First, the movement of the environment. It is incredibly windy, and the grass is in a constant state of motion. Second, we have two characters walking across the frame. Third, we have three types of camera movement. A pan and tilt, and then a pedestal, where the camera moves directly upward. What we have here is a brilliant sequence of shots. 3 different compositions, and all that required no editing to achieve. Now let's let the scene play on. Here, Kobayashi uses the full width and height of the frame to create the greatest amount of distance between the two characters while still being able to see both. Now we see the protagonist of the film, Hanshiro, walk against the wind to face his enemy. Because, if it wasn't already clear, it is now obvious that the two characters are here to duel. Notice the slow, fluid movements of the characters in the camera contrast with the rapid eccentric movements of the grass flailing in the wind. Here's a clear example of all 3 types of movement. The characters inch towards each other. The camera creeps in on them while the grass flutters about beneath them. Pause. Notice how the direction of the wind seems almost to be pushing Hanshiro towards his opponent. The motion of the grass in the foreground also acts as a leading line to direct your eyes from left to right to Hanshiro's opponent, who has the high ground and seemingly the upper hand in this fight so far. The opponent raises his sword, our eyes shift towards him. Then Hanshiro moves his sword in response, bringing our eyes back to frame left. Then our eyes move back to the right as the opponent steps forward. By staying in this wide angle and having the characters move one after the other, Kobayashi adds a 4th type of motion to the shot, the movement of our eyes. As viewers, our eyes constantly scan the frame, trying to figure out what the next move will be. Suddenly, the audience is just as much a part of the duel as the characters are. Now pay attention to the direction everything is moving now. The grass blows left to right. The camera pans left to right. The opponent walks frame left to frame right. The camera pans now left to right. And we see Hanshiro backing away, following the same direction. This motion continues. Even here. But now, a shift. Hanshiro stops backing away. He changes his stance, confusing his opponent, and begins his counterattack. Only for his strike to be deflected and his opponent to cut his sleeve. The motion from before resumes. but now something has changed. The Dutch angle or tilt of the camera signals this. Through the character blocking of that brief exchange, the 180 has been reversed, the line of action has changed, and now the movement from left to right will begin again, this time with Hanshiro leading the charge. This is the closest shot we've seen of the characters' faces throughout the whole scene. The left to right movement continues, but now the roles have been reversed. Hanshiro is in control of the fight now. The opponent backs away, fearful, the music swells, the tension keeps building, and then... Through his mastery of cinematic composition and directing movement, Masaki Kobayashi is able to create one of the most tense yet visually appealing action sequences ever put to screen.
首を取るのも難しい。しかし曲げだけ頂戴するはさらに一苦労。